This episode of Sideline Warning is brought to you by Roosport, makers of the original magnetic running pouch. Whether you're biking, running, hiking, or even traveling, the Roosport clips to your waistband with magnets for an easy, convenient way to carry what you need without the bulk of belts or bags. Visit theroosport.com and use the code SIDELINE30, all lowercase, for 30% off their entire product line. Again, that's theroosport.com, promo code SIDELINE30. And now on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sideline Warning, the show where sports takes are sure to go way too far into the field. Here to recap this week's biggest and best sports stories are your hosts, Dave Adams, Ben Foster, and Adam Russell.
Everybody, welcome into Sideline Warning episode 42, and as always, you've got the one, the only, the golden voice of the Southeast, Dave Adams, coming to you live in living color from Huntsville, Alabama. Well, we say this every week, actually more Harvest, but as always, I have brought my friends along, and I've even brought somebody else along as a special guest. We'll bring him in here in just a second, but first, as always, from Birmingham, Alabama, Hollywood Ben Foster. Ben, did you go to Georgia this weekend? Because I know there was a big concert event festival in Georgia. Were you a part of that?
Music Midtown. No, I did not go to that one. They had some pretty good acts playing it, though, but I did not make it over there. If I'd been there, though, I would have gone to see Rainbow Kitten Surprise. Are you a big Rainbow Kitten Surprise fan, Dave?
I have never heard of said band.
They're really good. You should listen to them.
Okay, can you sing me a few bars of one of their songs?
I don't think anybody wants me to do that.
Oh, come on, Ben. Okay.
Things that won't happen on the podcast.
Okay. Well, as always, we have another friend we bring in. He's all the way from the House of Mouse, from Leesburg, from Azalea Park, Bonaventure Lakes, from DeBerry, from Conway, from Hunters Creek, from Horizon West, from, what's another one? Poinciana, from St. Cloud, Adam Russell.
It's DeBerry, actually. Your Alabama showing, Dave.
I'm sorry.
DeBerry.
DeBerry.
How are you, sir?
I am well. Apparently, I talk with a thick Southern accent tonight.
Oh, you're fine. I'm actually over here Googling Rainbow Kitten Surprise, and I'm surprised to find out it is not a children's show on Netflix. So,
Why would it be?
Because that just sounds like something they would make for kids, does it not?
I guess
I'm going to give them a listen, Ben, and I'll have to let you know after the show what my thoughts are.
Let me know what you think of RKS.
I will.
Could we let that be an outtake? Adam listening to RKS?
There we go.
I'd rather listen to a certain song called Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
Oh,
How about the version that we made up this weekend?
What's that?
Dead land shark do 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 do. Dead land shark do 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 do. Hey, but before
I know the next act for Midtown Music, and his name is David Adams.
I know. He used my Christian name again, y'all.
Once a show. It's going to happen once a show.
Okay. So before we get into the game, let's bring in our special guest. He is a friend of mine from Tuscaloosa. I marched in the band with him, went to church with him the first time I was down in Alabama. He is one of the biggest Alabama fans I know, and we have him on for our next segment after we talk about the game. Mr. C.J. Watson, all the way from Tuscaloosa, Titletown. C.J., what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, not much. I appreciate you guys letting me come on and be a part, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well,
welcome to the show.
Welcome,
Thank
CJ.
You,
let's go ahead and let everybody know what you're on for. So, at the end of our talk about the Ole Miss game, so between the hedges of the game happening this weekend, Jalen Hurts came in for a long, extended amount of time, and I thought played pretty well, but he did make some bonehead errors. And so Adam goes on this tirade of hatred for Jalen Hurts. Well, the only person I know that is a big supporter of Jalen Hurts and very voices his opinion of it is you, CJ. So we're going to borrow a segment from ESPN a couple years ago when Lou Holtz and Mark May used to do a final judgment segment. So you, CJ, and Adam are going to go head-to-head on Jalen versus Tua, and Ben and I will give our final judgment after hearing y'all argue.
Also, it is a Jalen versus Tua segment as opposed to pro Jalen versus anti Jalen segment.
I mean, we can do it that way too. However you feel most comfortable.
The most important part is that Adam's going to do the entire thing in a Lou Holtz voice.
I'm so excited.
No, we're going to come up with characters for this. Do I need to like Hulk Hogan for Jalen here?
No,
dude, what you're going to do, you know?
So I'm not sure I like this audible. I thought that CJ was on to give a review of Rainbow Kitten Surprise. I didn't know about this Jalen thing.
That's after baseball.
Oh, my bad.
After baseball.
Okay. So, but before we get into that, let's talk about the game. I am ashamed to admit that. So the Alabama game started as the Auburn LSU game was ending. The kick before LSU had kicked their final field goal, Alabama had kicked off. Well, I had the Alabama game on my lower TV and had the Auburn LSU game up front because mom and dad and my family wanted to watch the end of the Auburn game. I turned, Auburn loses, and as soon as I flip over, Ole Miss is throwing that touchdown, and Alabama's down 7-0 for the first time in the season. What was y'all's thoughts when Alabama gave up a long drive or a long play after just the first play of the game and a touchdown?
I just thought, here we go, basketball on grass. We're having a shootout. It is going to be just swapping touchdowns the rest of the night. I was not worried about Alabama's ability to hang with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I knew our defense would take care of it eventually. Our offense would outpace them. I figured they were going to hang at least 3 touchdowns on us. Why not go ahead and get one out of the way? But for it to be that quick was a little disconcerting in the moment, yes.
Agreed. I thought I thought the same thing as Ben. I said, well, here we go, trading touchdowns. But it was you worry what the defense is going to do after getting a shot in the mouth like that. But, hey, they responded like you would want them to, so that was good.
Yeah, it turns out they were just saying, hey, Ole Miss, go ahead and get one. We're going to go ahead and give you one, and then we're not going to give you anything else. It's over after that.
Yep.
Like a lot of Bama fans, I'm a defense first kind of guy. I was just sitting there going, all right, I really want the defense to do well. But at the point Ole Miss scores in one play, I'm like, maybe I should put my preferences aside. Maybe I should welcome the shootout for once and just embrace that there's going to be a game with no defense. And then I was wrong. The defense really showed up, and I was happy again. I was like, why did I ever doubt that we would need a defense? This is so much more fun with a really good defense.
But so I have to question it. Is Alabama's defense really good, or did they just scheme decently enough? Because if you watch the game over, Te'amu overthrew a lot of receivers, and those receivers had beat Alabama's DBs. So did Alabama get lucky 2 or 3 times, or did Alabama's D-line put enough pressure to hide the fact that our DBs aren't really as good as normal Alabama DBs?
I think it's a combined effort between the defense and the offense because they weren't getting much penetration up front in the early. As the game wore on, they were. But you could physically see probably halfway through the third quarter, their quarterback was just falling down. Like he wasn't even trying to escape. It was almost like two-hand touch in the backfield. So I think that it was a combined effort of just the sheer numbers that the offense put up. They knew there wasn't a shot. But I was impressed by our defense. I mean, you look at the numbers they were putting up against other teams, and we even said last week that Texas Tech wasn't anything to sneeze at, and they put a lot of offense on those guys. So I think our defense looks good. Now I don't know if we'll be that good against harder opponents than Ole Miss was. I think we got some tweaks to do to get there, but I was impressed, I have to say.
This was by far the biggest defensive challenge Ole Miss has faced, and I think it kind of proved why Te'amu wasn't scouted by some bigger schools. Yeah. I think they said on the broadcast he stopped off at a community college in New Mexico before he got to Ole Miss, and he didn't really have a ton of scholarship offers. He's not Tua Tagovailoa, and that showed up in the game. He's got a good arm, he's a talented athlete, and he's got at least 2, probably 3 NFL caliber receivers on his team. But that's tough when you're playing against Alabama's defense. Bama put the pressure on him, and that wasn't something he experienced in those first 2 games.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, CJ.
He had. Oh, you're fine. A lot of people were talking about our secondary not being as experienced or as good. But in this particular game, you talk about being tested. He did overthrow a few of them, but there were a few that were right on point. And if it hadn't been for Trayvon Diggs swatting anything that went in his way out of the air, they could have put 3 or 4 touchdowns on the board. And I thought at least our starting secondary unit really, really shined in this game. And that's been most people's biggest concern was, hey, are we going to be able to hide the deficiencies in the secondary? And I think the secondary said, what deficiencies are you talking about? At least the starters anyway.
I'll say this. For the most part, I am happy with 2 people in the secondary. I'm happy with Deontay Thompson. I mean, who's not? And I'm happy with how Trayvon Diggs has turned out. When Trayvon Diggs first moved over to DB, I thought that was the worst move ever because he looked like a horrible defensive back last year. But he really has made strides and kind of makes me proud to say he's Alabama's defensive back right now. But Deontay Thompson, he's just in the long line of Alabama safeties. He looks like he's the next man up. I mean, think about it. Mark Barron, Landon Collins, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and now Deontay Thompson.
Is Dave finally saying good things about the Alabama secondary?
I believe he is.
This is amazing.
I'm saying good things about the Alabama safeties.
Just the safeties. You're still questioning the cornerbacks.
Well, let's look at the cornerbacks that Alabama has had. Let's rehash this, Ben.
Oh no.
I did not mean to get you started, Dave.
Yeah.
Hey, me and CJ are supposed to be the one on the soapbox today. Come on.
Well, Ben just got me on the soapbox. Marlon Humphrey. Adam, what's my thoughts on Marlon Humphrey?
Ye shall never speak that name again.
Right. Kareem
NFL.
Jackson. Kareem Jackson. Thoughts on Kareem Jackson?
None whatsoever.
Right. I know you're all right, CJ, but
I'm just messing with you.
Was he good at Alabama?
His last year, yes.
Okay. But was he good at most of the part at Alabama?
He wasn't terrible.
Okay. He was
But he also wasn't. He was a contributor on what was typically one of the best defenses in the country every year that he played.
Okay, he was a contributor, but he wasn't great.
This is almost like a preview of our Jalen conversation in a minute. He was a contributor, but he wasn't great. So he's basically using my points ahead of time.
So what I'm hearing is Alabama's defense is serviceable, but not great. Alabama's secondary is serviceable, but not great. I don't want that. Nick Saban is supposed to be a defensive back master. I want defensive backs who are shut down, lockdown corners that are going to be first-round draft picks. Oh,
David,
you want to say what? Yes.
David,
Yeah.
133 yards passing. David.
Okay. Yes.
David.
Fine.
Ben, is there anything else
It really is that simple. 133 yards passing.
7 for 22.
On a team that was averaging over 60 points a game coming in.
Okay, so I guess I'm alone on this island here. That fine. I'll be the one that doesn't drink the rat poison. That doesn't think this is the best Alabama football team that's ever played on turf. There's places that this Alabama football team can improve, and I think the secondary is one of them.
Dave, you said you're on an island. You couldn't have been more on an island if I'd thrown a Nick Saban cornerback at you.
I will be glad to take this hot take this week because while they looked good against Ole Miss, put them against somebody that, I don't know, that has a good quarterback. Now, we won't play one this year.
So how about a team where a quarterback puts up over 330 yards in a game? Like Ta'amu did against Texas Tech. You mean a team like that?
Fine. I will secede and I will say we will agree to disagree until the point where it comes where I say, ha, I told you so.
I'm fine with you calling the secondary a failure, Dave. Please, by all means.
Fine. The Alabama secondary is a failure. But so Did y'all hear anything about Tua Tagovailoa's injury? He did look like he was hobbled a little bit on the sideline. He went into halftime a little bit early, and he was limping into halftime. The reason he played for 2/3 of the game is because, if you notice on the sideline, Tua was limping. He wasn't himself. Has Saban said anything in the week since that? What's going on?
No, I don't. Yeah, it's just his calf. It's not that big of a deal.
Not that big of a deal. Well, it was a big enough deal that Jalen had to play.
The official quote was, "He's not injured." Was the official quote.
Okay, look, Jalen was going to play anyway, and Alabama was smoking Ole Miss. Like, the game, at the point that they shut Tua down, the game was over. There was still time on the clock, but the game was over.
There's still time on the clock in the second quarter.
You got to get Jalen some work. You got to get Mac Jones some work. Why? I mean, that's about the time Tua was shut down in the other two games. It was only a little bit earlier, and he actually was outpacing what he did in the first two games against supposedly lesser opponents.
You know, you talk about getting Mac Jones some work and Jalen some work. Why can't we get Baby Barker some work?
Not everybody needs work, Dave.
I think he was.
He'll probably.
Did he dress out? Did he dress out?
I don't know. I didn't see number 7 on the sideline.
He'd be the only one that didn't play if he did. Because I think we played just about everybody else.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. What shows up your team? What shows up your opponent more? Scoring 60 points on them and beating them like 62-7, or putting in your fourth string quarterback, giving each quarterback his own quarter, like literally putting the quarterback in quarterback.
So they mentioned something on the ESPN broadcast that I kind of scratched my head on. They said something to the effect of you can only play 3 quarterbacks. Is that a rule?
I've never heard that rule.
Yeah,
and how do you do the Wildcat? Does that count as a quarterback?
No, it has to be. I think people that come in as quarterbacks, like the position quarterback.
Well, that's what a running back is doing when he's playing the Wildcat. He's lining up at the position of quarterback. So does that count?
I don't know. Well, that's something that we'll have to put into the Google machine and come back to it later in a later episode.
The goal should be to give every running back his own snap.
That would be fun.
Those are the things you can do when you have a video game offense, and that's where Alabama's at right now. This is just video game stuff.
Are we at Tecmo Bowl Bo Jackson level yet?
Not yet. Not yet. We're about to the level of how I got to be on NCAA 12. So I was that offensive mastermind playing on the EA Sports games. But since we have some new blood in here, CJ, I want to get your opinion. Because if you listen to last week's episode, Ben kind of made a hot take saying that he thinks Tua is a good Heisman candidate, but Judy is as much of a Heisman candidate. What is your take on that?
As long as the offense continues to click like it has, Judy catches the first touchdown pass every week. He catches another one real soon after. He's almost unguardable. And if Tua's throwing to him, he's going to put up numbers that are going to be Heisman worthy.
I like CJ. We need to have him on the show more often.
He is. I wondered who the go-to guy was going to be, but it's clear that it's Judy. And I mean, Tua throws to him, with ease. Jalen throws to him with ease. Mac Jones had his lunch eaten, but still managed to get the ball to Judy. I mean, it's there's something to that. That's a good call by Ben.
See, I like CJ. This is a good guy. Dave, I am so glad we brought CJ on the show this week. And CJ, I've got to say this. I'm in perfect agreement with you.
Wait, Ben,
Jerry
he's a
Jeudy.
wrestling
Look
fan.
at this, Dave. Dave, look at this. Jerry Jeudy catches a touchdown pass off of Tua. Your biggest complaint with Jerry Jeudy for Heisman is the idea that if for every touchdown Jeudy catches, Tua is going to also have a touchdown. But Jeudy caught one off of Tua, and then he caught one off of Jalen. Jeudy's so good, he's making Jalen look good, and he got one touchdown reception off of both quarterbacks. He was still playing after Tua's out of the game. So if Jeudy plays more minutes, if he plays more snaps than Tua, doesn't that increase the likelihood that Jeudy would be the better Heisman candidate?
Well, let me just say real quick, Ben. CJ's a wrestling fan. You got to wait for the heel turn. Eventually, it will happen.
At some
He'll turn
point.
on you.
Wait, I'm not the one.
Hey, I might be what they call the white meat baby face. You know what I mean?
Three receptions, 136 yards, two touchdowns.
Would you
that's
say
that's a Heisman night?
If Jerry Jeudy gets into the special teams, like Desmond Howard did when he won it, right?
Yeah.
I think he's got to have that in his resume too to win it. Personally, I don't think wide receiver stats he's going to get it alone. I think he's got to pull some duty on special teams too, which is a risk. But
yeah, I don't know if I don't want Jerry Jeudy out there on special teams.
No.
I want Jalen Waddle out there on special teams because he's something special. He's easily the best return man I've seen at Alabama since Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I'm also promoting Waddle for Heisman in 2020.
Yeah, I was in it.
That junior year where he's returning and he's catching, Waddle for Heisman 2020.
There you go.
After becoming the second wide receiver at Alabama to win the Heisman after Jerry Jeudy.
Just remember the last time an Alabama player we tried to hype up for Heisman Trophy was one by the name of Freddie Millens, and remember how much of a failure he ended up being. Yeah. Silence. That's what I thought.
We hyped Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry.
I said wide receiver.
Okay, well, that's wide receiver. All right.
Yes. So there you go. Well,
what year was he there?
Freddie Millens.
Freddie Millens. Was that
he
when,
was there for 99?
That was our freshman year, CJ.
Okay, it's a long time ago.
Yes, it was. I know.
Yeah.
Well, when you say Freddie Millens, I picture I picture the kick run back in the SEC championship game. That's my image in my head of Freddie Millens. It's too bad that wasn't all the time.
The image I have of Freddie Millens is when he took the quarterback snap and ran all the way, and Florida stopped him. Then he reversed himself.
Reversed all the way back.
Yeah. That was he wasn't a kick. Wasn't a kickoff.
Oh, that wasn't a kick. That's right.
Yeah. That was when he was on the field. Well, so talking about failures and talking about opinions of other players, this leads in perfect to the final segment, the final judgment segment. So let's go ahead and put the scenario out there. On one side, we've got CJ, who thinks Jalen is a perfectly acceptable quarterback, and Alabama can win under Jalen Hurts if Tua goes down. Am I correct in that assumption, CJ?
Correct.
Okay. And on the other side, we have Adam Russell, who, when Jalen comes in, loses all hope for humanity.
Wow.
He wants Jalen off of his campus immediately. Let me see if I can find the quote he gave in the group. I have to go back a while.
It would take you the whole show to read that text rant I went on, Dave.
No, it was a fun one. It has to be read.
I've never seen Adam like that, and by seen I mean texting like that.
Because you only seen me once in person.
Okay. And I think there was also like a delay going on. So
yes.
So Adam is reacting to things Jalen is doing, and we're seeing the next thing Jalen's doing as Adam's commenting on the previous thing.
So this is his text string. I want him gone. No more. He wants to redshirt. He's got it. Let Matt play the rest of the game. Baby Barker. Bill in the stands. Section 205, row 8, seat 2. Come on down and play quarterback. While you're at it, kick. The dude has lost his skill set at quarterback. So let him
go is what it was supposed to say. Let him go.
Let him go up somewhere else.
Adam couldn't even type straight at this point. His thumbs were falling off in just like a fury.
Let him go somewhere else, like the bus or go ahead and start packing up in the locker room. He can be the water boy. Make us some high-quality H2O, but not another snap. We are a championship program, and why we tolerate this mediocrity is beyond me. This guy can transfer to the Gus Bus today. Okay, I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand the floor over to CJ to make his opening statement.
And wait, that was in the middle of a 62-7 win, by the way. Let's just keep that in perspective. All right, CJ, I'll let you.
I do have to ask, what play brought on that incredible rant?
The delay of game. That's
The
it.
delay of game. Okay.
The delay of game.
Okay. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember Tua having a delay of game in the championship game, and that worked out okay. And Jalen's delay of game, it worked out okay. A lot of times the delay of game is not always just on a quarterback. It's on communication from the sideline as well. But I'll give you that. Give me something specific, like not just matter delay of game. What is your? Give me 3 beefs with Jalen.
3? Wow.
Just 3.
Okay.
Just 3.
I'm glad you said just 3. First and foremost is, I don't know what it was, and we've talked this on the show, but last year's Iron Bowl seemed to be a tipping point for him, and I think it started in the Mississippi State game. But my first beef is that he's a feet-first quarterback. Mm-hmm. If he has, over the last 2 years, and Dave, you're going to love this, an average per game of 22 attempts, 22 pass attempts, and 168 yards. But he also has 62 yards rushing on a number of attempts. He's supposed to be a running quarterback. I don't have a problem with that. There's plays designed for that. The offense is set up around that. But his tendency to break to a scramble only 1-2 reads into the play as soon as he feels pressure has become more and more and more of a bad habit that I've seen come his way. That's beef number 1. Beef number 2, and it's really decision-making is a big one, so I'll just throw a second one out there of the big game. And Dave, I mentioned my take earlier. This is where I'm going to look at your faces as I'm saying this. So I went out and pulled the last 2 years' worth of stats, right? And I broke them down into 2 groups. Is it a big game or not a big game? So I consider the big game to be the first game of the season, which is usually a marquee matchup, some kind of kickoff thing to generate goal, LSU, and anything in the postseason. That's what I consider, and Tennessee. That's what I consider a big game, because those are a must-win for a coach if you're at Alabama for the most part, right? You got to start off the season good. You got to beat our rivals. You got to perform in the postseason. His average QBR, adjusted QBR, so adjusting for all of that, is 6 points lower in a big game than it is not in a big game. He has the same number of attempts on average, but 60 less yards passing on average, 134 in the big game versus almost 200 in the cupcake games or easier games, and almost a full touchdown on average less in the big games, like 1 on average in a big game. And so when you look at overall stats, what I compare him to is when you look at a quarterback like Jalen, who can put up 2,700 yards like he did last year, almost 2,800 yards. That's almost exactly the number that JPW put up in his last year at Alabama when he was under Saban. He was 12-2. What were the 2 games that JPW lost? He lost to Florida in the SEC championship, and he lost to Utah in the bowl game. An inability to win in the big game in the postseason where it mattered the most. Jalen is 26-2. His losses are to Clemson in the Natty, Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and he would have been 26-3 if Saban hadn't put 2 in the last one. We would have lost that game too. It's an inability to lose to win the big game. So, in my 2 beefs, number 1 is the tendency that he's developed over the last probably 5 or 6 games to scramble before he really reads the defense. And my second is he's a glorified John Parker Wilson. I will turn it back over to you.
I have to make a ruling as a judge right now. Not about the arguments or anything right now, but I have to say that the Clemson loss in the Natty is not submissible because that was not Jalen's fault. That was the defense. Jalen did his job. That is insubmissible evidence.
Jalen Hurts was 13 of 31 for 131 yards passing. If that's an acceptable performance for a quarterback in the Natty, I will eat your hat, Dave Adams.
He also made the game-winning drive, which would have been the game-winning drive if Clemson did not play an illegal pick play at the very end of the game. I will stand by Jalen for that game only. So that game is insubmissible.
Everyone gets a one national championship mulligan.
At Alabama, really?
At Alabama.
At Alabama.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, then let's hard Dabo then.
CJ, do you care to rebut?
Sure. So Jalen's not a run-first quarterback. He is, I'll give you feet first. When his freshman season, when you look at what Lane Kiffin put together for Jalen, it had to do with his ability to scramble, his ability to move. He was a true freshman starting. That is not his strength is not his pure passing abilities like it would be for Tua. The skill set that Jalen has is not a bad skill set. In fact, it's a really good skill set, unless you're wanting to see a pure passer. So if you take a guy that moves well in the pocket and you let him move in the pocket and he throws well enough that he can make these throws and win you a whole lot of games, Jalen's doing what you're asking him to do. And I think as a true freshman, Jalen actually, I will say, overperformed up until the end of the season. His completion numbers versus attempt numbers, they're not crazy good because, they're not going to look like Tua's, because Tua's going to throw a lot more than Jalen does. Jalen's numbers look pretty pedestrian because he uses his feet. But again, that's almost what he was asked to do. I used to hear people complain all the time that he shouldn't be leading the team in the number of rushes per game, because there was, I don't remember if it was for the season, per game or what it was, but a lot of people had issues with how often Jalen rushed the ball. So no, he didn't rush the ball more than the other guys. If he took a sack or if he had to scramble out of the pocket, that counts as a rush. There was a lot put on his shoulders, and he won his freshman season every game except for the national championship game. In the national championship game, he made a number of really nice throws, and the last thing he did was put his team in a position to win and gave the defense, the best part of Alabama's team that year, a generational defense, as some people have called it, the opportunity to go do what they're supposed to do to win the game. But then Deshaun Watson showed up and did what he does. But Jalen being a feet-first quarterback is not a bad thing unless you're somebody that just wants to see a pocket pure passer, and then you're just not going to like him. But that doesn't mean that he's not. It doesn't mean that he's not a good quarterback. In fact, I thought he was a great quarterback. Very few people, Jalen's freshman year, had a lot of negative to say about him. When you, what was your second point, Adam?
That he's a glorified John Parker Wilson.
NFL guy. Okay.
No, he's not. Hold on.
Radio announcer.
He's not now. But he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was the backup in Atlanta for 2 or 3 years. An NFL guy. So he's a glorified NFL guy.
Hey, look.
John Parker left. Go ahead.
If your cup of tea is backup quarterbacks in the NFL, man, I am right there with you. Jalen will make an excellent backup quarterback in the NFL.
What about A.J. McCarron, who's a backup quarterback in the NFL? That guy's got a few championships to his name.
Hey, if that's your
he does.
Go for it.
And
I'm talking about
when John Parker Wilson left, when John Parker Wilson graduated from Alabama, he held just about every record in the book.
Yeah,
so
and he can hold on to those records as tight as he wants. But when he leaves 6-7, 7-6, and 12-2, I don't care how many records he got. The guy couldn't win the big games. So at the end of the day, that's my thing with Jalen. When you look at the last 3 games he played last year, Auburn, Clemson, and Georgia, he had 112, 120, and 21 yards passing. So at the end of the day, I think, and I'll say, I agree with you. Jalen is a skilled quarterback. And I think that he has a skill set that many, many football players in the country do not have. And I think he would make a great quarterback at a mid-tier SEC school. And I think he would drive them far beyond where they would even expect to go. A Kentucky, a Mizzou, even a Florida with the way they're playing these days. Heck, Florida State, they need all they can get. I'm all for him contributing somewhere. I just, at the end of the day, when it comes down to winning a national championship being the goal, he's not the guy who's going to get it done at the end of the day. Tua is. And we have the guy who's going to do it. I don't, though. My concern, and I'll let you talk. I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you, but my concern is that we're going to spend so much time trying to coddle this guy so that he doesn't run away on us and go across the state to Auburn as a graduate transfer. And we're going to spend all this time rehabbing him, just like Coach Saban loves to rehab these lost causes in the coaching ranks, that we're going to try to do the same thing with him, that we're going to take our eye off the prize. I don't have a problem with him. I completely agree with Saban saying we need to find a way to utilize his skill set. I just don't want to force it and end up taking our eye off the overall goal.
I don't see it as a forced thing or a coddling thing. Like you said, they want to use his skill set, and I think if you look at the way Tua, the guy's going to take some hits. I think there is a legitimate concern that Tua might miss some time because of an injury, and you want to have Jalen Hurts or Mac Jones, whoever. You want to have a guy that is comfortable in the offense and able to sort of step in and continue running it. But what Tua is doing, again, I'm not trying to make a case for Jalen over Tua here, so hear me on that. But what Tua's done is given the opportunity for Jalen to not get coddle time. I mean, it's legitimate. Well, there's no need to keep playing Tua right now. So let's get Jalen in here and not give him meaningless snaps. He's not just handing the ball off. He's running the offense, and he's running it well. In fact, if you're not looking at Jalen through the lens of I don't like Jalen, then you'll and I'm not saying this just for your sake. There's a lot of people that are highly critical of what he's done, and I want to say if Tua was not in the game doing what Tua is doing, you would look at Jalen and go, okay, he's fixed a lot of his problems. Man, he's making his reads. He's passing the ball. He's staying in the pocket more. When he leaves the pocket, he is being flushed out of the pocket. Now, did he scoot out of the pocket 1 or 2 times initially? Probably before he needed to. Well, yeah, that's the kind of quarterback he is. He's a feet first guy. But just because he leaves the pocket doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That's how he creates. That's how he does what he does. And that's the one reason he won 26 games as a starter. So you've got Jalen that I think one of the things that they really want to do with Dan Enos is to take these guys, fundamentally make them better. I think Tua is light years better than he was in the Georgia game. I think Jalen is light years better than he was at any point at Alabama. Mac Jones, he looks better than he did. Dan Enos is a difference maker there, and you want to let these guys get in the game. You want them to run the offense. Jalen's throwing to the ones. When he's coming into play, he's not throwing to the second-string guys. He's behind the number one line, and he's throwing to the number one receivers or handing off to the number one running backs. So that chemistry's building. And when Jalen has come in, the offense, with the exception of the first game, the Arkansas State game and the Ole Miss game, the offense clicked along, moved just fine. Ole Miss it wasn't any easier for Ole Miss to stop Jalen than it was for them to stop Tua because the offense is moving well. Jalen ran the offense. Jalen ran it well. If Tua were to go down, would we score 60 points a game? No. And that's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm saying that is Jalen improved enough in order to lead Alabama to a championship? Yeah. Has he won the big games early? He's won some of them early, but he didn't win the national championship. But he had a rough game. But if we're all looking at what Tua's done. But to say to Jalen as a true freshman starting in a national championship game, to look at his stats and not be, confused as to why stat-wise he didn't look great against the best defense that we faced all season long in the biggest game on the biggest stage. I mean, most quarterbacks not named Tua are going to give you a game that's underneath what their average is going to be when they're playing against the best competition of the season. So that's not crazy to say that, when he played against the best defenses, he didn't put up as good of numbers. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Most of the time, unless your name's Tua.
Yeah, there you go.
But is Jalen capable of taking Alabama to a national championship and winning a national championship? In my opinion, absolutely. Because the way Jalen's playing this year, thus far, in 2 quarters worth of playing time, because they've pretty much just had maybe about 3 quarters worth of playing time on the season, he's been really good. If you look at the numbers, the percentages are good. His footwork is improved, and that's the Dan Enos thing that I think they're wanting to work these guys in so they can take that coaching and put it into use other than in practice. His passes have been pretty crisp. They've been good. He's dropped them to guys in stride. He's confident again because he wasn't confident last year. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I think the turnover and coordinators hurt him in a big way last year. Andy was looking over his shoulder at the guy behind him that was every bit as good as advertised or better. So I think that was a problem. But to look at it right now, if Tua went down, well, could Alabama score 40 points a game? If you remove like LSU and Auburn and these elite defensive teams, Jalen can put up 40 points a game easy with this offense. I've got no issue.
Dave's flinching. Dave's flinching at this point. Dave's like, I don't know. I'm with you, CJ. I think
the only video I've got is Adam right now. You guys, whatever's going out, so I've just got Adam. But
CJ, I'm with you. I think if Tua's going to average 60 points a game, I think it's pretty reasonable to think Jalen could average 40 points a game. That's not
Absolutely.
Too far off from what he's done the past 2 seasons, and he's passing the ball better this year. So I think that's completely reasonable.
He is.
Dave is flinching though. The cringed look on his face is pretty rough.
I was waiting for the objection. Come on, Judge Dave.
Yeah, so I guess Ben's ruling is he's going to rule in favor of CJ.
Well, hang on, I have one more point to make. We haven't made our closing statements yet.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to make my objection yet until you make your closing statement. So I let CJ make his opening statement first. So let's let Adam make his closing statement first this time.
Okay. So I will concede 110% that I was very concerned about Jalen after the A-Day game because he did not show up as much as I had hoped he would. So when you look at the last 3 games last year, plus the A-Day game, going into the season, I had a lot of doubts. You throw on top of that the quote that you could read several different ways in media day and his parents talking out, and speaking out. It seemed like there was a potential for this Jalen thing to get out of hand quickly. Now, if Nick Saban, and we've said this on the show, if Nick Saban and the crew have a plan for him to actually contribute, I don't have a problem with them contributing with him whatsoever. I just would say that I don't want to necessarily force him into situations to please him or force him into situations to keep him at Alabama and not transferring somewhere else. If there's a natural fit and they find a way to take advantage of his skill set, I'm for it. If Tua were to go down and Jalen is the starter, I'm not as excited as I am right now, but I think we would at least, perform well. I don't know that we would live up to our expectations. Overall, my closing statement is that I still see Jalen Hurts on the same level as a JPW, somebody who could get you a 12-win season, get you to the SEC championship, get you to a bowl game. He would not be the person I would pick as the starter, and I hope that we find natural ways to include him in the offense and not force it just to please him or his parents.
Thank you, Adam. CJ?
if Jalen is forced into a starting role, because that'd be the only way he'd get there, because it's Tua's job. There's no question about it. If Jalen's forced into the starting role, I would tell the Alabama Nation to breathe easy, because you've got a guy that's went 26-2. Even in a season where folks were highly critical of him, he still went and got the job done. He made big throws in big games and did what any other mortal quarterback does when you face a defense that is the elite defense that you've played all year long, i.e. Auburn and Georgia. But if you look at a guy that's been through those things, who in one championship game put the team on his back, and left the field at the end of the fourth quarter with the lead, and he did that with his legs. The guy is better at this point than he's been at any point in his Alabama career, if you ask me. His fundamentals are better. His footwork is better. His checkdowns on his reads are better. His arm is better. He's got his confidence. I think that if Jalen has to come in and start, Jalen will win these big games. Ideally, he wouldn't have to win the big games. I think this offense is set up in a way with the players that are there that no one guy has to do it. And I think that's kind of been somewhat of an issue. It's almost kind of funny to say, to put it all on Jalen before, because we had that one standout wide receiver. He's got great options. He can do his reads. He can do his checkdowns. You've got a guy that most people are critical of because of he doesn't have Tua's arm. Every other skill set, every other thing that you would want a quarterback to have, Jalen can check those things off. He's a great leader. He's a mobile guy. He's got a good arm. He doesn't have Tua's arm, but he's got a good arm. He doesn't get rattled in terms of forcing mistakes and losing a game for you. Jalen is if there was no Tua, most people would say Jalen is the real deal. And if Jalen were forced to come in, take the reins because of a Tua injury, Bama will win a national championship because you've got an improved Jalen Hurts. When you look at Jalen, don't compare him to Tua. Compare this Jalen to the 2017 Jalen. Is he a better Jalen? Absolutely, 110%. And that's a Jalen that'll take you. And, hey, he could say, I've taken you to 2 championship games, and now I'm going to win you one in this third go-round. He would be a guy that said, Jalen haters, hey, 3 championship games if he were the guy to do it, because that's what he would do. He's a guy that any program in the country would be excited to have as their quarterback. If he were to transfer, there would be schools coming out of the woodworks trying to get that guy to go because of what he's done. The guy's the real deal, and if Alabama has to have him as the quarterback, hey, go ahead, chalk it up, champion.
And I fully welcome any of those schools to express their interest in a quarterback who is, quote, not going to lose the game for you. You can have it.
All right, Ben. You and I have been pretty much silent during this segment.
Amazingly.
Now it's time to make our rulings. Ben, I will let you do your ruling first.
The question at hand for this case is not whether Jalen is perfect. The question is not even whether Jalen is great. The question is whether or not Jalen has a place on the team and what that place is. And I think, CJ, you answered that. You answered that really well. Jalen is not going to be the starter, and you never argued that he should be the starter. But you said that he's of value to the team. If Tua gets hurt, he could come in and play. I think those are great arguments, and I think that his track record of getting the team to the national championship and the fact that in most of these games this season, if he was the starting quarterback and had to be the starting quarterback, he'd win them. I think those really answer the question. So I'm saying CJ has won the case here.
Okay, where I have trouble ruling for CJ is CJ said that Jalen could come in and average 40 points with this offense. CJ, I made the funny face when you said that because this is basically the exact same offense that Alabama had last year with a better offensive line last year and a better wide receiver. Still had Jerry Jeudy, still had Ruggs III, still had Irv Smith, but you also had Calvin Ridley. And he couldn't average 40 points last year. What makes me think he could average 40 points this year? Is he a serviceable quarterback if Tua went down? Yes. But I think that what fits into this offense better is a serviceable quarterback that can throw on a dime at 60 yards deep. Do the exact same thing that Tua can do, but not with the legs. Mac Jones has the arm without the legs. So the question to me becomes, is Jalen a better option than Mac Jones? I don't think so. The other question that I have in my mind, and I will let you two answer this in a very short 30-second segment. If Jalen decided to transfer to Auburn next year, would you fear Auburn with Jalen as the quarterback? CJ?
Absolutely, I would. When Auburn has beaten Alabama, how have they beaten Alabama with what kind of quarterback?
With a running quarterback that has a cannon for an arm, i.e. Cam Newton. Jalen Hurts is not Cam Newton.
He's better than Nick Marshall.
Hey, give the man his 30 seconds, Dave. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's better than Nick Marshall.
He's serviceable as well as was Nick Marshall. What beat us that game was not Nick Marshall. It was Trey Mason.
Jalen is not serviceable.
Yes, you can say that again.
That was good. That was a poor choice of words on my part. The issue is not when you saying Jalen is serviceable is doing him a disservice. Jalen has done a lot of what has asked him to do. Nobody's asking Jalen to drop a ball on a dime 60 yards. Find me 3 other quarterbacks in the country that can do that. You're not gonna find 5 guys that can do that. If the question is, can Jalen go to another program and strike fear into Alabama? Absolutely, because he has struck fear into a lot of the teams that he's played because he's got a 26-2 record. You have to, if you look at what he's done this year, you've got to respect what he can do with the pass because he's proven he's improved his passing game. You always have to respect what he can do with his legs. He's become a more complete quarterback who can now throw a ball better than he has at any point. If I'm Alabama, yeah, I'd be scared to face any team with Jalen as the quarterback on the opposing side of the field. I would not want it one bit.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, I've got to come in with a little bit of information here because I've been doing math, and you know how that works for me sometimes.
You stay out of this with statistics, Ben Foster.
This is just some basic math. In the 12 regular season games last year, with which I believe Jalen started all of those, Alabama averaged 39 points a game.
But it's not 40.
It's actually 30. It's actually 39.7, which rounds to 40. I didn't want to say.
Gummit, Adam.
And furthermore, I think Dave, you would concede that Jalen looks better this year than he did last year.
Yes, he does.
So better than 39 would be 40.
So wait,
now,
so are we all saying? Wait, I don't want to let that assumption slide by.
Over 14 games, it would be 37 points per game because it tapered off a little bit in the
like it does with Jalen in big games. But it tapers down in big games like it does with Jalen. Yes.
But anybody would taper down. Any team would score more points against Mercer than they would Clemson.
Okay, so I will make my ruling in favor of Adam. Because
I have to have my 30 seconds.
Okay, Adam.
Yes.
I have to have my 30 seconds. I am not scared in the least of Jalen Hurts in orange and blue. All you have to do is find a way to put pressure on him. It's all you have to do. If he's the starter and he's out there for 4 quarters, find a way to put pressure, lock down with your corners and the safety that Dave was speaking so highly of, and eventually you will force him to make a mistake. that will end up costing Auburn a game. I don't fear them a bit if we have to face them. What I want at the end of the day is not a quarterback that's going to get me to the national championship game. I don't want a quarterback that is going to put me in a position to possibly win. I want a quarterback that's going to score enough points to where Hunter Renfrow on a pick play doesn't even factor into my national championship hopes or dreams. We've done it to Notre Dame. We've done it to LSU. We've done it to countless teams that were, quote, the best in the country before. And the fact that he can't pull it off, he's not the guy I want in charge of my offense.
I got to get in on this. I would not. I would be afraid of Jalen playing for Auburn next year because it would be an odd year, and the game would be in Jordan Hare. That's everyone should be afraid of that scenario. But here's the thing: Jalen Hurts is a man of character. He's an upstanding individual. He's not going to be at Auburn next year.
What is this? Is this the Miss America pageant?
What
or are we
Alabama,
talking about football?
No, I'm just saying if Alabama should be afraid of Jalen Hurts being somewhere, it should be meeting Florida Atlantic in the national championship game.
First UCF, now FAU, right?
Okay.
The Owls are ready to fly, man.
All right, so everyone knows I'm going to be in favor of Adam, and I have one more bone to pick with CJ.
Your $20 is in the mail, by the way, Dan.
Yeah, I know. So CJ,
Ben, your 30's on the way.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You keep throwing up the 26-2 stat. You have hammered that home, and you are correct that he is 26-2 as a starter. Greg McElroy was 13-0, 14-0 in 2009. Do you claim that Greg McElroy was who won us all of those games in 2009? Because if you do, I take huge difference with you in that one.
No, but he played a huge role in that.
But it wasn't. He was the one that said the 13-0 wasn't McElroy. That was the defense. McElroy just happened to be the starter, correct?
It was the game manager. And Jalen's a game manager that can score points.
Except in the big game.
I seem to remember Greg McElroy using his feet to reach a first down by hopping along the sideline and staying in bounds. That's moving the ball with your feet, just like Jalen. Jalen's just a better Greg McElroy.
David, if I threw out the crazy take that the reason we made it to a national championship so easily in 2016 was the 11 defensive touchdowns we scored less than Jalen's contributions, would you back me on that, or would you scoff at that as well?
I would back you on that as well.
So we're on the same page. Me and you, finally.
CJ, that was a fun segment, even though I disagree with you. I appreciate you coming on, man. And we're gonna do our break for Roo Sport real quick. But do you mind coming back for when we finish the segment here and come back for the next?
Man, I'd
segment?
love to. I'd love to.
This is awesome. We've loved having you. But, we've got to do our segues. We're known for our segues here. And Jalen is a talented quarterback. And CJ said that when he does have trouble staying in the pocket, and I think it was Adam actually that made the point that he has trouble staying in the pocket. You know what else has trouble staying in the pocket? My keys and my phone when I'm running.
Wow.
I can't take credit for that. That was Ben. That's why I use the Roo Sport pouch. And Adam, tell them about the Roo Sport pouch. You're the one that turned me onto it. So
so it's one of those pieces of gear that you just find every now and then that becomes part of your everyday exercise regimen. It basically, we've talked it before. It's the pouch that clips to your waistband with magnets, and you can keep your gels and your key and your phone. It has a hole for your headphones, all of that stuff. And it just basically is a way for you to keep all your stuff secure while you're running. You can use it when you're hiking, when you're traveling, anything like that. But it's basically just a really good way to keep your stuff with you without having to take a bag or something like that.
Well, yeah, I tell you, it's an awesome piece of equipment. And if you go to their website, www.theroosport.com, they have more than just those pouches. I've actually ordered one of the Roo Sport loungers where it's one of those inflatable couches. All you got to do is turn around in circles and it inflates up. I'm taking it to tailgate. They've got the little battery packs that you can use when you're on your run. They've got everything from that. They've got those pouches. They've got the loungers. They've got everything on there. And they've actually done something special. They've given us a code that we can use, Sideline Warning or Sideline 30. Adam, you're supposed to stop me. You're supposed to say, hey,
stop, Dave, stop.
All right, Sideline 30, all lowercase, spell the word sideline, and 30 to give you 30% off your entire order. So anything you order on the website gives you 30% off.
I'll say, Dave, it's really exciting to actually prove how big of a sports fan they are. They match the percent that Jalen scores fewer points in a big game is about 30%. So they took 30% off the price of a Roost Sport, anything in their product line. So thank you to those guys.
Yeah, thank you guys at Roost Sport. Go out and
that discount hurts so good.
Oh my gosh, Ben, that joke. No. We retired that.
So basically, all told, if you're a feet first person like Jalen is in the pocket, you want to get out there and run, the best way to keep your stuff safe is a Roost Sport pouch. Go to theroostsport.com, use the code Sideline30, all lowercase, and then the number 30. You get 30% off of anything, and I know they appreciate your business. We appreciate you going and checking them out.
Yeah, and they, run as well as Jalen because you don't have to pass like Jalen. He passes at the opportunity. Don't pass at the opportunity to use a Roost Sport pouch.
That's why he likes it, because the Roost Sport's not big enough to hold a football, so you can't just tuck it and run in a Roost Sport. You have to.
But the Roost Sport is big enough to hold my oversized iPhone 6s Plus, which is pretty amazing because there's not many pockets even pants pockets that I can fit my phone in sometimes. So I'm always glad to have a Roost Sport that can actually accommodate a large phone.
Well, thank you, Ben, for bringing us back to the product. Thank you.
I will tell you this. I have ordered the iPhone Max, the X Max or XS Max, and I'm going to see if it will fit in my Roost Sport Pro. So I will be the product tester for Roost Sport to tell you if the iPhone's biggest phone will fit in the new big Roost Sport. So I will let y'all know on Friday. In fact, Adam, you and I are going to be in Orlando together. I'll let you know when I see you in Orlando.
Wow. I hope you don't carry that thing around with you, man. I won't be able to see you. You have to look around it. That thing's huge, man.
Hey, I'm taking it to Halloween Horror Nights, man.
Awesome.
I'll take good pictures.
Don't drop it. Don't drop it, please.
Don't worry.
Get scared and drop it.
Well, guys, let's talk about what just came out today. We are recording on a Tuesday night. For some reason, I thought it was Wednesday. I have no idea why. But we're recording on a Tuesday night, and the 2019 Alabama schedule was just released. First glance. First off, will Jalen be here next year in 2019 when we have to play the schedule?
No, that's what a grad transfer is for.
We'll see him on November 30th.
CJ, your thoughts on this? You're the Jalen apologist.
I think he'll transfer.
Okay.
I think he probably should.
Okay. So first glance, I'm looking at it, and I don't see a stumbling block on here. We open with Duke in Atlanta. That's the Peach Bowl or the Peach kickoff. Are you kidding me?
The Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
kickoff?
Chick-fil-A kickoff. Are you kidding me? We have to play Duke. That's the best we can do.
It is always good to get your defense to prepare against a Cutcliffe offense, just to prepare for the rest of the season.
Will Cutcliffe still be there? Isn't he 80 now?
Cutcliffe is actually, fun fact, younger than Saban. He just looks like he's 20 years older than Saban.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I'm with you though, Dave. Looking at this, if people are complaining that our schedule this year is too soft, unless South Carolina really puts it together or Ole Miss unless one of these teams steps up, I think people are going to have the same thing to say next year, even more so probably, especially since there are 2 weeks to rest up before Texas A&M and LSU.
Yeah. I'm looking at it here, and the only challenging away games the only away games we have, we're at South Carolina, and really Nick Saban versus a former assistant. He doesn't lose. So at South Carolina, at Texas A&M, Nick Saban, former assistant, at Mississippi State, whoop-de-doo, and at Auburn.
In an odd year.
We're in an odd year. So
you can safely assume Auburn will be undefeated at that point. They will have had a miracle play against Georgia, and they will be undefeated in Jordan-Hare, and it'll be a night game.
You know that reminds me. I don't want to segue or deviate too far, but is Auburn going to be undefeated when they play Alabama this year?
Okay.
I
yes.
don't think that'll be the case.
Okay, just checking.
My hot take is not still in effect. So I need you to back off of it. Let's get back on track.
Excuse me.
I fact checked myself. David Cutcliffe is 64. Nick Saban is 66.
Wow. Cutcliffe looks like he's 80.
He looks much older, but he is younger, 2 years younger than Nick Saban.
Okay.
He could be at Duke. He could be at Duke as long as Saban will be at Alabama.
Okay. The question I have, and looking at the schedule, is how in the world does Alabama have 2 byes? There's a bye between Ole Miss and Texas A&M, and then there's the normal bye week between, Arkansas and LSU, so the week before LSU.
I swear, Dave, if this is some sort of trick where you introduce an NSYNC song into the podcast, I'm going to be so mad.
All Alabama needs is another one, and we can go bye, bye, bye. I wasn't going to until you said that, Ben.
Wah, wah.
You were hesitating so much, I was like, Dave's thinking about it. He's thinking about NSYNC, which is what he's always thinking about, really.
Hey, CJ, I think CJ can probably remember when I had the NSYNC blonde hair.
I do. Like it was yesterday.
CJ, if you can produce some photos of that, we'd pay mightily for them.
Good luck finding one with Dave not in a hat. That's going to be the hard part.
That's it.
that is a good point. Back in those days, we all had to wear hats all the time. Oh. It was one of those you had to keep the sun off of you when you were marching in the $1 Million Band.
Exactly.
Well, but when we do our score predictions in a little bit, we'll call them Ben and Adam's picks and Dave's frosted tips.
In my defense, it wasn't frosted tips. I used a whole bottle of Sun-In.
Oh, so you didn't just do the tips, you did the whole thing.
I did the whole thing. I went full blonde.
It was impressive.
Thank you, CJ. You don't remember that, Adam? We hung out when it was that color. Early.
You always had a hat on, man.
That's true. Good point.
Literally.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so CJ, I know you're not a baseball guy, so we got to get into our baseball talk here. So you can butt in when you want, but if not, we're going to do the picks in a minute. So
that'll work.
Okay. So the last time we talked, the Braves were on a hot streak, and looked like the Braves were just going to coast into the postseason. But since we've talked, the Braves have lost now, 4 straight, and it's not looking good. So what are your thoughts, Adam and Ben?
I think they're going to keep us in suspense. They realize they've gone farther than we ever expected them to, and they're just going to keep it dramatic so we stay buckled up, as it were.
I don't like being buckled.
Well, I think the big thing is the Braves have been streaky. They got swept by, who was it, the Diamondbacks, and then immediately turned around and swept the Giants. And I just think the Braves are a streaky team right now. And some of that's the fact that they're young. Some of it's the fact that the bullpen is not your ideal bullpen, but it's got some talented arms. But, it's also late in the season. I think the Braves are going to make the playoffs. It's not guaranteed yet. That's why you count down these magic numbers and everything. But I think the Braves are going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to win the Eastern Division. If for no other reason than the fact that the Braves are playing the Phillies 7 of the last 10 games, and the Phillies have not played well against anybody in the East, but especially not the Braves. And so as long as the Braves, sort of hold serve, if they play 500 ball against the Phillies, they're going to win the division.
Yeah, and then they have the Mets also, who aren't exactly great this year.
So I want to point out something here. Ben, you talk about pitching and not having the ideal bullpen. I follow Dave O'Brien, who used to write for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now he writes for another blog.
He's with The Athletic.
He's with The Athletic. Okay, same place as Aaron Suttles.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a tweet today that said the Braves have issued 585 walks, third most in the majors, already 10th most in franchise history, and one more already than the total for last season's team. And last season's team had atrocious pitching. So maybe this pitching staff is not as good as we thought.
Well, I think this pitching staff has been good, but a lot of those walks have come later in the game. A lot of that's on the bullpen. Now, you've had starters that have looked outstanding in some starts and horrendous in others. Fultonevich in his last 2 starts, I believe, had a complete game where he was as dominant as could be, and you look at him and you go, there's a guy that's ready for the playoffs. And then in his next start, he barely goes 5 innings and has something like, I think it was 4 or 5 walks. These guys are streaky, and even though Fultonevich has kind of become the number 1 starter for the Braves this year, he still doesn't have a ton of experience. He's pitched a few seasons for the Braves, but he has no playoff experience. So I think the Braves have got some serious questions about figuring out who the starting pitching rotation is going to be for a 5-game series and a 7-game series if they can make it that far.
Okay. Well,
who would you go with, Dave? If you have to get 3 starters for a 5-game series, what would your 3 guys be?
As of right now, I'd start with Nuke, who can be streaky, but I think Nuke is probably the best pitcher on the roster. I said that last week. Anibal Sanchez, even though he's old, he looks to be one of the most sure-handed pitchers. And honestly, I'll put Fulte there, but Fulte and the Toussaint kid, Toussaint looked incredible in his first start. Toussaint, whatever. He looked incredible in his first start. His second start, he looked to be a good serviceable pitcher. I like him, but I think Fulte has a little bit more of a sure arm ahead of Toussaint.
So no love for Tehran, huh?
Tehran, in my mind, is the same thing as Jalen in your mind.
Wow.
Tehran can go find a bus and go somewhere else.
Oh, man.
Hey, so Bill from the stands can come down and pitch?
Yes.
I would say actually that saying Tehran and Jalen are the same thing in my mind is a little bit of a misnomer because Jalen can win everything but the big game. Tehran can't even win against the Marlins sometimes. So
well,
I don't think they're exactly equal.
Well, right now, if I'm setting a 25-man playoff roster, I would probably put Jalen Hurts on there ahead of Julio Tehran because I don't know what I can count on Tehran for. Jalen this season has proven himself as a middle reliever.
Wow.
That's
actually accurate.
He sets things up for that closer, Mac Jones, and after Tua goes 5 innings. So I in all seriousness, I'm joking about putting Jalen on there, but if I'm setting a 25-man roster for a 5-game series, I'm not sure that there's a space for Julio Tehran. He's been so inconsistent. I don't know how you can't start him, and I don't know how you use him as a middle reliever. I would definitely go with Gossman before I would go with Tehran as a middle reliever. I'd go with Sanchez as a middle reliever before that, and I'd probably go with Toussaint, which is hard to imagine. To me, there's no contest between Fulte and Toussaint, Dave. I think you got to have Fulte in there. I think your starting rotation is Fulte, Newcomb, and Sanchez, and Sanchez gets it just on seniority. And Gossman has proven himself before as a middle reliever and an innings eater. And if one of those 3 guys has just a terrible outing, you bring in Gossman and let him pitch the rest of that game.
So I mean, we're all on the same page then about the starting rotation. I mean, if Tehran is there and we wouldn't include him and we feel like he's a pedestrian type pitcher, right? Not really doing anything great, not really losing too much. Would we take some of our defensive surplus that we have at other positions, group it with Tehran, get rid of him, and get somebody to replace him that really bolsters the rotation, where we have a surplus there too? Because it feels like Gausman holds his own, but it feels like we really only have 3 that we would count on.
But
don't we need 4 or 5?
The problem, you need 5 pitchers.
But we don't have 5. We would say
not for a 5-game series,
right?
Not for a 5-game
series.
But you wouldn't say that those 5, any one of them, you'd put in any situation and you feel comfortable with, right? So we need Tehran to be gone and replace him with somebody we would trust, ultimately, right?
But for this series coming up, there's nobody we could trust.
No, I'm not talking about the series. I'm talking about next year. Down the road.
Well, I think you look at the scope of next year after you get through these playoffs. The pressing. No, it's fine. It's fine. But look, the pressing need is figuring out the playoffs. Yeah, Tehran, maybe you move him in the offseason. Maybe you just see if he can return to form. He's had good seasons.
No one wants him, though. That's the problem.
You shop him around for a couple of guys that would bolster the bullpen. Tehran would be a great 4 or 5 for somebody, which is a shame because in the past couple of years he would have been a great 2 or 3 somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
He was the Braves opening game starter. So
how far we've come.
Right, exactly. But I don't know. And my fear, the Braves will win the East. My fear is that meeting the Braves in that game, that first series, will be the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
And you know what happens when the Braves play the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, you mean like tonight?
Right.
When we're recording.
Or you mean like the infamous infield fly rule game. Or you mean like the year before that. Or, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The Cardinals or the Braves' kryptonite in the playoffs.
And at the current moment.
And the current moment. So my fear is the Braves are going to face the Cardinals. And you go and put that down, the Braves will get swept.
Hang on, I'm writing that down.
Dave's writing off the Braves. He's saying it's over.
He's unbuckled already, and we haven't even gotten our magic number below 5 yet.
The Braves are a failure in the postseason. There, I said it.
Dave, could you reinforce just how terrible Nick Markakis is?
Nick Markakis is a failure, and he needs to be traded.
That was going to be my one baseball point was let's just let Dave call them a failure, and they will win the whole thing.
That's it.
That is a sideline warning, proven method
fact
of turning it around. Hey, call them a failure.
That's Dave's Jobu.
Jobu needs rum. Oh man, can we call Roman Reigns a failure?
I'd say he is Dave Adams failuring really well right now.
Yeah, well, Roman. Sorry, we had to get wrestling in there.
Unbelievable.
Really quick, CJ, what were your thoughts on Hell in a Cell? Yeah,
I haven't watched the whole thing yet. So
okay.
That's what two kids will do. I watch a match, fall asleep, and then have to turn it back on the next day. So
that's why
the look on Ben's face right now is priceless.
CJ, that's why I have a daughter that loves wrestling and watches it with me.
That's it. Hey man, my oldest son, he gets moves on him all the time. He digs it. He loves it.
There you go.
Just Dave's pure shameless ability to work in wrestling into what's a football and baseball podcast. Okay, let's get back. Let's get back to
it every week.
Well, something I'm looking forward to every week is picking the games that are going to be happening. So we've got a lot on the slate. So let's go ahead and jump in. CJ, are you good to pick with us?
Let's do it.
Can we go over the stats as they stand right now?
No,
really
let's
quick,
not.
if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, Adam, why don't you let us know what's going on?
Oh, thank you. Right now, Ben has 76% correct.
Woo woo.
Dave is at 77.6% correct, and I'm at 79.3.
I'm coming for you, Dave. I'm coming for you.
That tiebreaker is no longer necessary, Dave. But we're only one off. So Ben's picked 44 out of 58. Dave's 45 out of 58, and I'm 46 out of 58, thanks to Texas mostly. But yeah, we're still only one off, so it's anybody's game at this point.
What's the type? Who was the closest to the score last week? I believe that was me.
I think that was me.
Yes. No, it was you.
It was me.
It was me.
No.
Actually, it was Ben. You're right.
There we go. Because I had something in the 50s to like 14.
But I had Bama scoring like 60-something, didn't I?
Yeah, but if you look at the average point differential, he was at 12 and you were at 14.5 between the two team scores, so he was closer.
Fine. Okay,
Boom.
Let's get to the pick.
And now this is a statistics podcast, so we're doing good. Keep going, guys.
We're on a 5-hour podcast reign anyway. So
don't get bogged down in the numbers. The important thing is Dave's a better picker than nobody else on this podcast.
I'm a better picker than you.
Here we go.
So, let's go.
That's not what the numbers say. Friday, September 21st, the FAU Owls, Jalen Hurts' future team. This is a Friday game. Take on Adams' UCF Golden Knights, the number 16 team in the country and the defending national champions. Who's going to win this game, guys?
CJ, go first, man.
Because they don't have Jalen yet, they don't stand a chance. So I got UCF taking this one.
I'm going to go on a limb and say Lane Kiffin gets a win. And Adam, I wish I was flying in earlier so we can go to this game.
Yeah, I'm sure we would get along really well with everybody at that game.
That's exactly why I'd want to go.
Gosh, I would buy the tickets just to watch you guys there.
Yeah, I think UCF's got too much going on for them. I don't think Lane's quite got the team there yet, so I'm going with UCF.
Dave, I like where your head's at, but not enough to pick with you. I'm going with Central Florida winning in Orlando. All right, another Friday night game. Number 10, Penn State takes on Illinois in Champaign, Illinois. Do the Illini stand a chance in this game?
CJ.
I don't think so. I think Penn State wins, and they win big.
Penn State will be popping that champagne in Illinois. Penn State wins.
Yep, completely agree. And I couldn't say it any more colorfully than Dave did. So,
You were hoping I wouldn't get that, did you? You
stole it from me. You stole it. But you sided with me on the judgment thing, so you're fine.
Okay.
I'm just excited Penn State's getting an extra day to tune up for Urban Meyer. I'm going with the Nittany Lions. All right, number 8, Notre Dame takes on Wake Forest. This game will be in Winston-Salem, so congrats to the folks in North Carolina getting back online. Hope everybody continues to stay safe in that part of football country. Who do you guys like in this 11 a.m. kickoff with Notre Dame on the road?
I'm going to jump out on a limb here, and I'm going to take Wake Forest for the upset. Notre Dame has been anything but impressive. That number 8 sitting beside their name is just because they're Notre Dame. And Wake Forest is going to pull a nice upset, take Notre Dame down.
CJ, I like where your head's at, but I just can't pull that trigger. I agree with you. Notre Dame is highly overrated. But Notre Dame will win this game in a close one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be close. I think Notre Dame's going to pull it out, and then their day of reckoning comes in the following weeks where they face Stanford and Virginia Tech. They're going to get outed then, but I think they make it one more week.
It's so tempting to pick Wake Forest, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame here. Nebraska, coming off fresh off a loss to Troy, takes on number 19 Michigan, who are now 2-1. This game's in Ann Arbor. Who do you guys like in this matchup for the B1G?
Michigan all the way, big.
Yeah, go blue. Scott Frost is learning that you can't win in big leagues with the gimmick offense.
Yeah, I have a theory that Scott Frost is a Trojan horse for the Big Ten to really lost some easy wins against Nebraska this year. He's brought UCF's typical level of mediocrity to that conference. So I'm picking Michigan as well.
Nebraska's real problem is that they don't have a scholarship quarterback that's healthy. They have one scholarship quarterback, and he didn't play against Troy. They might want to figure out a way to play somebody. Maybe like a grad transfer next year. Just a thought might work in a school that likes to have running quarterbacks. Nebraska's not going to win this game. Michigan's got this. They're winning at home. Shea Patterson's going to have a big day. And Harbaugh's suddenly got Michigan looking halfway decent. Number 23, Boston College. Their first time in the top 25, I think, since they had a certain quarterback that now plays for the Falcons. They're traveling on the road to take on 0-3 Purdue in West Lafayette, Indiana. Guys, who do you like for this game?
Boston College is going to come in there. They're going to get a win. It's probably going to be pretty ugly because Purdue plays pretty ugly. It's going to be Boston College by a lot.
Yeah, Boston College by a lot.
Yep, BC on lock for sure.
If you'd asked me at the beginning of the season to give you a list of teams that would be 4-0 to start the season, there's no way Boston College would have been on that list. But here they are. I think they're going to pick up this win against Purdue. All right, there's a 2:30 game with number 3 Clemson taking on Georgia Tech. Who do you guys like in this matchup? They're playing in Bobby Dodd Stadium.
Clemson's going to have a much better road showing than they did last week. They're going to – was it last week that they played A&M?
Or 2 weeks?
It was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. They're going to have a much better road showing than they did 2 weeks ago. The triple option that Georgia Tech loves to run is going to get eaten alive by that Clemson defensive line. Clemson by a bunch.
Yeah, Clemson's going to win this game handily, and I think you're going to hear a lot more murmurs of fire Paul Johnson. I think Paul Johnson will be the first coach to get fired this year.
Yeah, Clemson starts to really benefit now from that ACC schedule. They're gonna roll over Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not go with Clemson here. You gotta pick them. Another 2:30 game. Tulane, fresh off of a loss to UAB here in Birmingham, will be taking on number 4 Ohio State. That team is coached by none other than Urban Meyer. Do you guys have a prediction on this game?
Urban Meyer will be victorious in his return to the sideline. Ohio State by a big margin.
I predict Urban Meyer comes out and the Ohio State Black Eyes will come out and pop Tulane right in the face. You like what I did there?
Too much.
Yeah, I was gonna let that sit until you asked that.
Too much.
I think Ohio State wins and Urban Meyer is still a piece of trash. So that's what'll happen this weekend.
My prediction is that there are going to be more Tulane fans than ever before across the country. But Ohio State's going to win.
Go Green Wave.
Kansas State takes on number 12 West Virginia. Let's pick this one quickly.
West Virginia.
Take me home, country road.
West Virginia.
Yeah, I'll make it unanimous for the Mountaineers. Here's another quick pick. Number 13, Virginia Tech at Old Dominion. I don't know why, but they're at Old Dominion. Who do you guys like in this one?
Old Dominion looking hard for their first win. Virginia Tech's 2-0. They're ranked 13. They're not going to stay that way all season, but it's not going to be this week. Virginia Tech wins big.
For the third week in a row, the away team will win, but the athletic director or whoever made this schedule truly loses.
Yeah, somebody's got to do something about that. Old Dominion always reminds me of a name of a deodorant brand, so I think Virginia Tech will handle that.
Or a country band, Adam.
Oh, there you go, too, yeah. More deodorant.
Or a trucking line. I got to go with Virginia Tech. All right, Florida International taking on Miami. This is a battle between two Miami schools. This game's at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Who do you guys like?
Miami, big time.
Yeah, the U.
Yeah, they'll have FIU between a hard rock and a hard place.
Oh, dear Lord.
There are so many games where I want to break out my FIU chant, but it will not be for this one. I'm going to pick the Hurricanes. All right, a 3:30 game. Number 17, TCU, taking on Texas. This game's in Austin. Texas rebounding big by beating USC. TCU needs to rebound after losing to Ohio State. Who do you guys like in this matchup?
Texas beating USC surprised me. I think Texas will return back to struggling. TCU is going to rebound, and I think TCU goes into Austin and picks up a W.
I'm actually the exact opposite with you, CJ. I thought that they shocked me and surprised me winning that game, but I think that they showed me something that they can actually be a good team. And I think unbeknownst, like Ben hates this idea, but I think Tom Herman becomes a huge hero in Austin. Hook 'em this weekend.
Wow. Yeah, I think all Texas really did this past weekend because I picked them. That's why I'm number one so far. But I think all Texas really did was outed. USC is overrated, so I think TCU is going to win this week.
Texas handled USC because USC is not a good team. TCU is a good team, and they will be able to hook the horns very easily. So I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs in that game. McNeese on the road at number 25 BYU. This is a game we all love to pick, right, Dave?
Quick game. Make it a quick pick.
Is anybody going to pick McNeese?
No.
Okay.
No.
There we go. Army taking on number 5 Oklahoma. Do you guys support the troops?
Yes, I support the troops, but not to win this game.
That's right.
Ditto.
I support the troops as well, but Boomer Sooner will win that game. La Tech taking on number 6 LSU, now a top 10 team.
Dear
this game's
Lord.
in Baton Rouge. Will LSU remain undefeated?
Unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Louisiana Tech will wish they hadn't called Baton Rouge.
Oh, a Garth reference. I like it.
Wow. I jumped the gun. I had a couple more games before I got into SEC that I should have thrown out there, like Texas Tech at number 15, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State coming off a big top 25 win over Boise State. This game's also in Stillwater, just like last week's game. What do you guys think will happen?
In the battle of no defenses, Oklahoma State's going to take it.
Yeah, Cowboy up.
Yep, completely agree. Oklahoma State.
Well, the amazing thing was Oklahoma State actually played surprisingly good defense against Boise State. I think the defense is going to be the difference in this game because they're definitely going to score as many points as Texas Tech. They're just going to be able to contain them. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. Number 24, Michigan State taking on Indiana. Is this one exciting?
No.
Indiana's 3-0. Michigan State's 1-1.
If we're talking basketball, then heck yeah, that's a good game. But this ain't basketball.
So, CJ, what's your pick?
Michigan State's going to give Indiana their first loss of the season.
Go Sparty.
Adam.
Yeah, me too. Gosh, man.
Hey, guys, I got news for you. This is the upset special. Indiana is winning a home game. They're going to be 4-0 just like Boston College because that's the way we all predicted it. Indiana.
Thank you for
upset special.
Thank you for making that pick, Ben. You just made my lead on you a little bit better.
Here's a matchup. Here's a matchup I think that we can all get excited about, interested in. This is a 7:00 game. Number 7, Stanford taking on number 20, Oregon. This one's in Eugene, Oregon. Who do you guys like?
I think Oregon's going to pull the upset.
Oh. So CJ's going my normal thing of never go against Cristobal, but I'm going against my normal thing, going against Cristobal, Stanford.
Yeah, I haven't been that impressed by Stanford this year. I'm going to go with Oregon, too.
Thank you, Adam.
We in the days of Alabama being so good on offense, people are talking about Saban's joyless murder ball, SJM, but we forget about the SJM Junior Stanford joyless murder ball. I'm going to pick the Cardinal to win this game over Oregon. Suffocating defense and running the ball till you get really tired and go to sleep. Number 18, Wisconsin takes on Iowa. Iowa's 3-0. This game's in Iowa City. Wisconsin coming off of a loss to BYU. Do they rebound this week?
Yeah, I think they do. Iowa they're 3-0. I'm not sure who they've played, but Wisconsin tends to roll through the regular season pretty well, and I think they'll roll pretty well Saturday over Iowa.
Yeah, I pick Wisconsin here, and I really hope to take up a lot more time so Adam can not gloat here in this next that I know he's about to do. So I'm going to take Wisconsin. And Ben, who are you picking?
I think Adam's got to go. Adam, aren't you going to pick? Adam,
yes.
Adam, I think
yes,
it's
I'm
your
next.
turn. Go ahead, Adam.
Now that Wisconsin's finally ranked where they should have been ranked all along, I think they settle in and beat Iowa this week.
Well, that's not the gloating I thought we were going to hear. Okay.
That's because you stole my thunder.
Adam can contain his emotions. I'm going to go with the Badgers here and remind everybody to drink Wisconsibly.
Oh my gosh!
Arizona State, our last non-SEC game. Arizona State taking on number 10 Washington. Who do you guys like in this Pac-12 game?
Washington underwhelmed me so much in that Auburn game. Arizona State is trying to prove something, and I think they're going to go in and get an upset over Washington Saturday night. So I'm taking Arizona State over Washington.
I want to pull the trigger because I like Tom Herman, or not Tom Herman. I like
Herm Edwards.
Edwards, yeah, you know Herm Edwards. But I just don't think they have enough to beat Washington. It's going to be a close game, but I think Washington wins a squeaker.
Yeah, I agree. If you can't take out SDSU, you're going to struggle against Washington, so I've got Washington too.
Yeah.
I love Herm Edwards, but I think the advantage is coaching in this game, and I think the advantage goes to Washington. So I will take the Huskies at home. Maybe a different conclusion if this game was in Arizona. All right, let's get on to some SEC games. Kent State versus Ole Miss. Is Ole Miss going to rebound?
Absolutely. Ole Miss big.
Yeah, the Fighting Sabins don't have anything ready for them. Ole Miss big.
Shark up, fin up, whatever they say. Ole Miss.
Dead land shark do 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 do
Oh
do.
my gosh.
Dead. Okay.
I think there's a decent chance Ole Miss wins this by 62-7. So just putting that out there, that would be a really embarrassing loss for Kent State, because it would be embarrassing for any team to lose 62-7. All right, number 2, Georgia taking on Missouri. Both teams are 3-0. Is there any chance that Drew Lock decides to just throw for a ton of yards in this game and exploit Georgia's defense? He's already got 1,000 yards on the season.
I think Missouri is going to do put a little fear in Georgia, but I think Georgia pulls away at the end.
I think that it's actually
a closer game than they would want to.
Oh, I think the exact opposite of that, CJ. I think that it's going to be a blowout of blowout proportions. Missouri is a paper champ. They haven't really played anybody. So I've easily got Georgia winning this game by 21 to 28 points.
Yeah, whatever the spread, Georgia's going to win. I agree.
I think Georgia's going to win this by a couple of field goals. I think Missouri's going to try to turn it into a shootout, and they might actually make it pretty interesting. I think both teams are going to kind of average around 40 points in this game, because if you've got a good quarterback, you can average about 40 points a game, and I think that's something to be proud of, and there's nothing wrong with averaging 40 points a game with a good quarterback. All right, South Carolina taking on Vandy at a 4:00 game. What do you guys think of this matchup?
I'm sorry, Ben. Say that one more time.
It's South Carolina versus Vandy. The game's in Nashville.
I'm taking Vandy in this one. Vandy has played pretty well. South Carolina had a lot of expectation early in the season, and I just don't think they've quite lived up to what they had hoped. And I'm going to take Vandy in this one. Vandy had a good showing against Notre Dame. It's going to be at home. Their fan base will be as excited as their fan base can get. And hey, Vandy with the upset.
So you're saying all 5 Vandy season ticket holders will be there and get excited?
Oh yeah, they might even bring a friend.
Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, Ben's SEC East pick was not Georgia. It wasn't Florida. It wasn't Tennessee. It was South Carolina. I think Ben might have jumped the gun on that a little bit, but he doesn't have to worry about this week because South Carolina will win.
Yeah, I think so too. Vandy did put up a good show, and South Carolina's got an extra week to rest up and be ready. I think they'll be set for Vandy.
There was a stat that came out over the weekend, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like Kyle Shermer is undefeated in games in which he throws a touchdown but doesn't throw an interception, and he has lost every game in which he's thrown an interception. And so I think that's going to be very key. And what team's going to prey on Vandy with good defense? A must-champ team. I'm going to pick the must champions to get this win in the East. Although I could definitely see CJ's logic there. I think Vandy could be pretty competitive. I'm going to go with South Carolina to get a road win. All right, Florida versus Tennessee in what for most of our lives would have been an amazing matchup is now the SEC game we want to watch the least. Who's going to win this game?
I loathe Tennessee, and I will never pick them. Florida.
Are they some snitches?
They low down. They dirty.
I hate all the quarterbacks.
Every one of them. Their stadium is like a garbage truck worker convention.
I got to pick Florida after that.
Yeah, I'm picking Florida in this one too.
It's tempting to pick Tennessee because I'm a Jeremy Pruitt fan, although not a Tennessee fan. But I think Florida has at least maybe sort of figured a couple of things out. So I'm going to go with the Gators here to get a road win. All right, number 14, Mississippi State taking on Kentucky. Kentucky has beaten Florida this season, but that doesn't say as much as it normally would. What's going to happen here in this game at Kroger Field in Lexington?
This one's a tough one for me because both of them are having really good years. Kentucky, this is maybe the best Kentucky team that I can remember. And because it's in Kentucky, I'm going to go with Kentucky.
Bold move there, CJ. I was with you saying this is the best Kentucky team you can remember up until you said you're picking Kentucky. Mississippi State is good. Joe Moorhead was really the architect of all those Penn State offenses that beat Ohio State in the last couple of years, that played with Ohio State the last couple of years. I think Mississippi State is for real, and I'm going to pick Mississippi State in a little bit larger of a margin than most people say it will be.
Yep, the high school science teacher wins another one this year. So Mississippi State.
This is the exact kind of game that Mississippi State chokes on. They should be feeling confident. They should be feeling very good about themselves, and they should know they are a better team than Kentucky because they are a better team than Kentucky. But I can't do it. I spent all my upset mojo on Indiana, so I'm going to pick Mississippi State to get the win against Kentucky. I already threw La Tech and LSU out there. We all agree LSU is going to win. And now, how about the 7:30, the last SEC game of the night? Arkansas 1-2 after a loss to North Texas for a number of reasons, taking on number 9 Auburn in Auburn. Surely Auburn rebounds this week, right, guys?
Yeah, I guess.
The fat football.
I just
coach
hate
wins.
to. Right. I hate to. I'll put it this way: Arkansas loses.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, I have to agree.
So I think we're all in agreement that Auburn's going to win. I think the real question should be whether or not Arkansas tries the exact same trick North Texas did, and whether they do it in the first half or the second half. Arkansas should be like, look what we learned.
I want to see him try the trick that TCU did, where the guy lays down in the end zone.
I'd be okay with that. My favorite is the guy who fakes the heart attack from a few years ago.
That was fake. Yeah.
That's an all-time classic. All right,
that's a wrestling move. That's a wrestling move if I ever saw one.
We've picked a number of games, but there's one game left to pick, and it's a top 25 matchup. It's taking place at 2:30. It's Texas A&M versus number 1 Alabama. The game's in Tuscaloosa. Guys, I need not just a win-loss prediction, I need a score prediction. CJ, what's going to happen in this game?
The last time Texas A&M beat Alabama, they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to go and step out, and I'm going to say that Jimbo Fisher is going to be the first Saban assistant to beat Nick Saban. If one of them's going to do it, it's going to be Jimbo. But it's not going to be this week. Alabama
I was about
wins
to cut
big.
your mic off.
Alabama wins big. I'm going to let them be pedestrian and be in the 40s. I'm going to say 48-17 Alabama.
Oh, I was really about to cut your mic off the way you were going there. Oh, man. All right, so it's a 26.5-point spread. Texas A&M looked good against Clemson, but I don't think Clemson looked good against Texas A&M. That wasn't a good Clemson showing. Texas A&M averages 311 passing yards. Mond has 824 yards for 6 touchdowns. He has a cannon, but it won't help him this week. Alabama's going to come out and show what we do at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's going to be 56-24, Alabama.
Guys are bullish. I love it. I like that confidence that comes with having a quarterback like Tua behind center. I think that, yes, I think Alabama's going to win. I keep expecting us to come out one of these weeks against someone like Ole Miss, someone like a Texas A&M, even someone like Louisville the first week, and look a little flat on one side of the ball. I don't think it'll be on offense. I feel the same way about this one that I did against Ole Miss, and maybe I just need to have a little faith. But I think the defense might actually have a little bit of a struggle here. I kind of am in line between you guys. I say like a 49-27 win for Alabama.
Hey, Adam, what time does Halloween Horror Night start on Saturday night?
We have to be there at 4
Central?
Eastern.
Hey, Adam, is it too
Yeah.
late to back out of Halloween Horror Nights?
Yeah, that's why I have PlayStation View on my phone.
Okay, just making sure.
There we go. You got to keep your priorities straight. Well, I think the most interesting thing about this game is going to actually be how many times ESPN outlets and CBS outlets mention that Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher are both from West Virginia. And I am challenging all listeners of this podcast to be prepared for when this is pointed out. And when you do, you have to finish your Coca-Cola with a smile. Every time.
Gosh, they'll be drunk off Coke.
That'll be a lot of Coca-Cola. You will be having a lot of caffeine this Saturday. So that's a challenge to all listeners. Anyone that actually does that challenge, we will do something very nice for you and honor you on social media. And maybe something else. We will give you
CJ, I'm looking at you.
CJ,
Whoever it is,
the gauntlet has been thrown down.
I gotta pay.
I know Texas A&M played Clemson really well, but that game was in College Station, and A&M has not played well in Tuscaloosa when they didn't have Johnny Manziel. I think Alabama's going to control this game, and I understand that Mond can make some plays and he can rack up some yards, but I just don't know that he's going to be able to do it when he's getting pressure from Alabama's defense. So I'm going to go out and say Bama wins this game 52-12.
52-12. So you saying 52 means that Alabama has to kick a field goal?
Yeah, I think at some point Jalen's got to do something, right?
Obviously, Bulovas or Jones can't kick.
Hey, I think we'll give Bulovas that short when Jalen gets in the red zone and doesn't score. You put in Bulovas on like the 10-yard line. It's like a chip shot, not much more than an extra point. So there you go. That's how it comes about. 52-12.
Just don't let Austin Jones kick it because he can't kick extra points.
So anyway, those are the picks, and now it's time for some sideline warnings.
CJ, you got a sideline warning? We'll sit this one out.
Mine's going to be relatively short. Greg Byrne, athletic director at Alabama. When Alabama put forth the new plans, the renovations for the stadium, and all these things that they're doing to add all these premium price things, they are pricing out your regular people that are passionate, that would love to go to a game with their kids, to go spend family time, watch the University of Alabama that they love so much, and people are not going to be able to afford to do it. All these things they're doing are going to jack ticket prices up through the roof. I wish Greg Byrne would take a look back at the school he used to be an athletic director at Mississippi State and look at what they've done in terms of making the football game experience more fun and more affordable for the people who are coming into the stadium on Saturdays to watch the game. I think what they're doing is not reflective of what's on the field in terms of what they're doing for the fans. The people who can buy all the boxes and all this sort of stuff, they're going to be happy. They're going to show up. They're going to pay their money. And they're going to spend most of their time probably not watching the game. They're going to be dealing with all these things that this money will get them. But the guys like me that want to bring their wife and kids are just about to be priced out. And I just want to just say to the University of Alabama Athletic Department and the people that put forth these grand visions of what they want to do, think about the people who are really passionate about your program and that day to day just live, eat, breathe, talk, all that sort of stuff, Alabama athletics. Do something for them as well when you're building the future of the athletic department. I know a lot of us want to stay home and watch it on TV, but man, I want to go, but I just about can't. I got to take out a small loan just to go to a football game these days, and it seems that that's only going to get worse. So I just would love to see maybe a turnaround in terms of what they're doing for a game day experience, because not everybody's going to be able to afford to go. So that's what I've got.
Awesome, CJ.
Well said.
Well said. I'm well in line with you. I was afraid you were going to go into Coleman Coliseum, and then we were going to have another debate with Ben and you. But
hey, look, Ben, I got another 30 coming your way when it comes basketball season. I almost sideline warning Dave for unbuckling, but
there we go.
Hey, and Adam and I can debate too on some basketball if we want to, because I am at Alabama basketball. That's my jam. I love it.
All right,
let's do it.
Well, when basketball season rolls around, we'll have you back on. How's that, CJ?
Sounds wonderful.
All right. Well, there's CJ's sideline warning. Ben, hit him up.
I just have a couple of points I'd like to make about baseball. First off, while the Braves are in this series with the St. Louis Cardinals, it seems like an appropriate time to, one, give a lot of credit to Yadier Molina for being one of the best catchers in the game, despite being the bane of my existence and always causing pain whenever the Braves seem to play him. Yadier Molina will go down as one of the greatest catchers of all time, and that should be to his credit. But I am incredibly frustrated when I see the Cardinals playing, and I look at Yadier Molina, and I see that his catching equipment is sponsored by Jumpman, the Michael Jordan brand within Nike. We don't need a basketball logo on catching equipment. This also goes to the University of Michigan in your football team. We don't need the Jumpman logo on your football uniforms. Let football be football and let baseball be baseball. The Jumpman creep has to stop. So say no to the Jumpman. That's my first part of my sideline warning. Second sideline warning. There was a whole bunch of shenanigans over the weekend in which the Phillies were playing the Marlins, and Gabe Kapler just started changing out players at different times of the game. He replaced his shortstop in the second inning for no reason. He was doing random pinch hitters, and of course Don Mattingly followed suit. And then after the game, Mattingly said, "This is ridiculous. We can't do this stuff in September because we have the September call-ups. You play baseball one way for 5 months, and then you start playing baseball a different way in September because you have an expanded 40-man roster that you have extra guys in the dugout, and it completely changes the strategy of the game." And I couldn't agree with Don Mattingly more. The problem is Don Mattingly is the manager of the Marlins. You got no room to talk about anything, buddy. You got to keep your guys from endangering other players. Worry about that instead of worrying about what the competitive rules are. But somebody who is actually the manager of a good team needs to talk about the importance of having a healthy competitive environment. And the September call-ups, while it's great to see Touki Toussaint and some of these other guys come up early, it's got to change. This expanded roster is too much, and it does throw off the strategy of the game. So I agree with Don Mattingly. I just wish there was a better messenger for it right now. So that's my sideline warning.
Ben, you are the bane of my existence every week when you talk about these things, because you know I'm a baseball purist, and the pure part of baseball is when the September rosters are called up. You get to see these young guys and see them play. So I have no problem with this 40-man call-up. I have no problem with what Gabe Kapler did.
I think this sounds like a good judgment thing for me and CJ to judge on a future episode for you guys to debate.
I'm okay with that.
Let's do it.
I feel like Dave is being financed by Russia. That's what I really want to say.
Oh, you dirty communist.
Oh, low blow. Adam, save me with your sideline warning.
I sense collusion. Oh, my goodness. So my sideline warning goes to, and I say painfully, it's not that painful. One of my alma maters and my wife's alma mater, the University of Mississippi.
Deadland shark, Deadland
so I don't know how many people saw this side of the game on Saturday, but the teams we've played up to this point have been really good about giving us billboard material through the football program. But I haven't gone, and I'll admittedly say, done the research to see how many of these signs are recent. But there were a number of signs that were posted up, and I know at least one of them is recent, where some frats on campus at Ole Miss posted some very, very, I'll say, offensive things about Saban's family on signs outside of their frat houses. And not just, and we've talked, how Me Too creeps over into sports, that type of thing, but just out of a general sense of decency and class. Absolutely, the University of Mississippi owes the Saban family an apology. At the very least, those student organizations that were behind putting these up and allowing them to stay up, I believe the university just needs to own up to it and owe an apology. Because, Dave, you often do your sideline warnings on when sports crosses over into something more than what happens on the field. To sit there and say things like this about Saban's daughter and about Miss Terry, for all the good, especially that Miss Terry does in her community and everything like that, I mean, it just goes across a line to where it's a freaking football game at the end of the day. And to start saying things about someone's child and someone's wife or husband, if it was someone different, it's absolutely ridiculous and it's absolutely classless. And I honestly think that someone from the organization or from the University of Mississippi as a whole needs to honestly step up and issue a public apology. So there you go.
I agree, and unfortunately, we're not going to post any of those pictures on our Instagram or our Facebook. So if you want to know what Adam's talking about, just Google it. It was very vulgar.
I recommend you don't. Just take my word for it that it was about his wife, it was about his daughter, that kind of thing. I had to close it. I couldn't even look at all of them because it just goes against my sensibilities. But I think
if you use your imagination, they were worse than what you imagine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that. There were some other things that were done by the University of Mississippi fan base that was very vulgar and very not well representing of Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss to be, the people I know that have graduated from Ole Miss are outstanding individuals.
Oh, thank you.
I also know some really great sharks that deserve better too.
Yeah, I was more talking about your wife, Adam.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
But still, what was said and what was the actions that were done are not what Mississippi stands for, and Ole Miss needs to do something and make sure those things never happen again. And Alabama frats are not without fault, and I believe Alabama needs to do the same thing. So well said on that, Adam. I'm going to call audible on mine. Originally, I was going to say, NCAA, you're dumb for trying to close the loophole for what happened to Arkansas. NCAA was trying to make it illegal to do the delay run again, saying that a ref can call a play dead, which is dumb because if Arkansas was paying attention, that play would have never happened. But my sideline warning is going to go to all of the Alabama players that are listening to this podcast because, as we know, Nick Saban allows his players to listen to sideline warning because we are the official Alabama podcast. Correct, guys?
Something like that, yeah.
So you are going to hear from this podcast, from ESPN, from Fox Sports, any radio station you listen to in the next coming weeks, you're going to hear that this is the best offense put together in college football history. This is the best Alabama team in Alabama history. I'm going to borrow a phrase from Nick Saban last year. Do not drink the rat poison. In the SEC, any given Saturday, anybody can win. Look at what happened last week. No one gave LSU a shot, but LSU shocked Auburn and won on the Plains. Look at what happened when Auburn shocked Georgia. What was that, 2013? And had the miracle on Jordan Hare. They came back and they shocked Alabama with the kick six. Any given Saturday, you are beatable. You have to play 150% to really get out there and show the talent that you have. Do not listen to the media. Do not listen to the talking heads. I am throwing the four of us out there, because CJ's here this week. I'm throwing the four of us out there. We are talking heads. We are saying how invulnerable this team looks. You are still vulnerable. Do not drink the rat poison. Play your game. Follow the process, and everything will work out fine in the end. That's it. I'm done. Adam, if they take any offense to things that were said, if they agree with you and I on the Jalen situation, how can they get a hold of our show?
If and only if they agree, they can dial 931-44-BLITZ. Leave a voicemail, share how vehemently you agree with me and Dave. If you don't agree with me and Dave, call 932-46-49758. And whatever you get, God be with you. But no, if you've got a take on anything we talk about.
What was that number again?
46859. If you've got
I hear a niner in there.
If you've got a take you want us to talk about on the show, if you've got a question you want us to answer, if you just got something you want to get off your chest that we can play on the show, 931-44-BLITZ. It's a Google phone number we've set up. Leave a voicemail. We'll play it on the show and we'll talk about it.
There you go. 931-44. Yeah, guaranteed. 931-44-BLITZ. I'm actually shocked that CJ hasn't called yet. He has a lot of hot takes on Facebook. So if you're following us on Facebook, facebook.com/SW the show, follow the links to the show. CJ is on there posting his takes every week, and that's part of why I knew CJ had a good take about Jalen to bring him on the show. So like I said, find us like us on Facebook, download us on iTunes. We're on Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any way you can. Like Adam said last week, we love it when the ticker goes up just one. We really do enjoy you guys' listens. We enjoy you guys interacting with us. Do it on Twitter. We're at SW The Show. I'm at DAdams419. Ben is at The Ben Foster. Adam is still trying to get Tony the Shark to respond to him. He hasn't done it yet. But Adam is at RunTideRun. CJ, do you have a Twitter handle?
Not anymore. All I've got these days is Facebook, and my MySpace page is jumping, and my AOL screen name. No, I'm just kidding. All I roll with these days is just Facebook. All
right. Well, find CJ, I guess.
Come interact in the group.
Yeah, interact in the group.
You'll find me there.
Yeah, Facebook.com. We're our Sideline Warning fan group. We're also on Instagram at SW The Show as well. Guys, we enjoyed this interaction. CJ, we really enjoyed having you on this week. Like I said, basketball season rolls around. Yeah, when basketball season rolls around, Ben needs an apologist on here because Adam and I are kind of yawning when he talks basketball most of the time. So we'd love to have you back on, CJ, when basketball rolls around.
Hey, man, I'd be honored. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. Guys, as every week I say this, and I mean it, we thank you for listening. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. Roll Tide.
Dave's going to make a perfect judge. He's already got it's unorthodox, but I'll allow it. It's like a TV judge, man. I'll allow it.
Okay, now everybody's video free is frozen online.
We can't spend all night detailing your technical issues, man. Come on, we got a podcast through.
I'm going to turn my video off, see if that helps.
Oh, that helped a lot.
Oh, man. It is a noticeable improvement.
I hope you're recording, Ben, to get the good outtakes.
Oh, this
podcast just got handsome.
CJ's going to listen or not listen to the show anymore. He's like, man, these guys are horrible behind the scenes.
And over here we have CJ doing the podcast from his fridge.
CJ has left the building. He's like, I'm done, actually. And everybody froze on me. Everybody freeze. Everybody froze.
Yeah, we had a big freeze there. We're back.
Okay, we'll make sure it wasn't just me.
Everybody freeze.
Can I unfreeze now?
Dave, are you wearing an NWO shirt?
Let's not do as many picks as we did last week. We did a ton of picks last week.
We're doing all the picks.
Fine.
No, you didn't even put up much of a fight, man. We're doing all the picks. Fine.
Okay. Y'all ready?